Welcome to the latest edition of Trojan Football Talk. I'm your host, Tom Vartanian. Today's show brought to you by American Credit Union, for every day, for everything. Located next to Little Caesars at 3944 Route 281 in Cortland. By the Cortland Voice, the exclusive media partner of Trojan Football Talk. For all your local news and sports in Cortland County at no cost to you, check out CortlandVoice.com. By the Royal Auto Group on Route 281 in Cortland, the home of no hassle, no razzle-dazzle. Check them out at RoyalAutoGroup.com. By Yeaman Real Estate at the entrance to Yeaman Park off I-81, exit 11 in Cortland. By Nikki C's Hometown Pizzeria and Meatball Shop on Route 281 next to Hobo's in Homer. Find them online for fast, secure ordering or call 607-749-5300. They have a unique menu with dietary-specific options. Nikki C's, your grab-and-go specialist. By Graftex, located on Elm Street in Cortland. Founded in 1984, they provide custom screen printing and embroidery for teams and local businesses. Graftex continues its dedication to servicing customers' needs for innovative graphic designs, custom embroidered apparel, and quality service. They are easy to contact on 1-800-417-7791. By M&D Deli, located on Central Avenue in Cortland. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. M&D has breakfast sandwiches, bakery items, and daily lunch specials. They are also available for catering. Check out their Facebook page for more information. Stop by or call 607-753-TO-GO. That's 753-8646. And look for the new food truck coming this spring. By Crop Growers LLP, the first choice in crop insurance located in Homer. Contact Casey Slade at 607-591-2460 for more information. And by the First National Bank of Dryden at 12 South Main Street in Homer. Safe, secure, and locally owned for all your banking needs. For more information, stop by, call 607-662-4179, or check them out online at drydenbank.com. Well, we stay back in that early 2000 range for Trojans. Of course, we just recently had Luke Sabula on, and he was kind of an important part. In fact, he was a teammate of the guy joining me tonight, and I do really want to find out the true story after this one Cortland game that came around. We do want to really find out the truth behind all that, from what I was told by many people. But he's a 2004 grad, also of Homer. And tonight we're going to talk football. We will be doing a TV on the net in the near future as well, and we'll get to delve a little bit into his basketball and lacrosse career. But tonight we're talking to the quarterback for that 2002 and 2003 Homer Trojan football teams. And joining us today, again via Zoom, is Will Rumsey. Welcome, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Appreciate you reaching out and able to connect today.
Yeah, like I said, it's been a fun. This has been a fun ride so far. What we've done, and I've spent the beginning of this year, starting in the mid '80s, getting to talk to a couple of the first sectional champion teams. And even though your group didn't win a sectional championship, 2 years you were involved with the team, it was kind of that bridge, because it was 2005 that the team did get that first sectional championship in over 20 some years. But just what are some of your recollections first, just of your playing days with Homer? We'll start there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so it's always fun kind of going through the years where the core group of us started with Pee Wee back in third, fourth grade, and kind of working our way through the system, and to the varsity level, where our junior year didn't have a lot of success. Had some good memories and some good moments, but not a lot of success. But to finish our senior year, ended a little bit shorter than we wanted it to, but having some more success, some more wins, and a lot of good memories that last year.
So you got it. You got your start. What was it like back in the Pee Wee days of playing football at Homer? Did you always want to be the quarterback, or did you have any position you wanted to be in otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was so young, it was just fun to get into it and get the equipment and try to learn what the heck was going on. So pretty typical start to it. I think a lot of us started in third grade, where we would be carrying our equipment that probably weighed more than all of us to Griggs Field after school for a couple of months and practicing there. And at that point I was just open to playing, and I kind of just found my way to the position, and it stuck from Pee Wee. As
you were growing up those, early years and stuff, as you, of course, as you became the quarterback those last couple of years, I know that the little guys gravitate towards different players and stuff. Well, was there anybody back in the day there when you were growing up that you watched playing for the high school and decided, yeah, I'd like to be like this guy?
I mean, I guess at that age, it seemed like such a distant option. I mean, the varsity level. I do remember vividly going to those varsity games in middle school and junior high, and it just almost being surreal. The difference between those guys and pro players was nothing to me. It was such a crazy level. So I don't know if it was anybody in particular, but fortunately, I was able to see people like Mike Cole as well as see him play and have him coach when I was at the varsity level. So it was more so just the idea of being a part of those teams that was probably the biggest attraction for us.
Okay, so as you got done with those Pee Wee days, you moved on to the junior high ranks, and what was like your years playing the junior high squad?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was at the time it was Coach Baden, Coach DeBell. So just to get introduced to a more formal structure of an actual playbook and an actual offensive set, defensive set, and every time you got to a new level, it was almost overwhelming. It was so much to learn and kind of keep up with. But yeah, had a lot of fun and some success too as a team from those 7th and 8th grade years.
The guys that I've talked to that have played with John, and I remember him more as a baseball coach. I never got a chance. I never took advantage to go over to watch JV or junior high practices with the two Long Island accents screaming out instructions to the little guys. But a lot of people said, John was a nice guy. He was fun, but he was tough on you when you played. You were expected to perform, and he expected certain things out of you even as a junior high player.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely set the tone. And again, going from the Pee Wee experience, and it was really taking a big step where for the first time you had really a coach who expected much more from you. So really coming down on us and when we needed it as well. So yeah, he set the tone for really the entire football campaign for a lot of people.
And after that, of course, a couple of years of playing the junior highs, it got up to the JV ranks, and how was that transition? I believe it was still Troy Humphrey was still involved back at that time as a JV coach. What was it like? Because that's where for many years the teams got those first real tastes of success, because the JVs had some really good teams back in those days too.
Yeah, it was really the entire experience too, because you're going from junior high where you're the big man on campus kind of walking around on that school. Then you're all of a sudden at the high school. So it's a whole new experience as far as the weight room and having some overlap with the varsity team. But yeah, we had a lot of success through those JV years. The core group of us, again, Coach Humphrey, Pat Quinn, a lot of great coaches that we were fortunate to have. I forget the records at this point, but I know we did have success those earlier years. Some great memories there.
Yeah, like you said, 2002 was your first varsity season. You're a junior. And really, Derek Hartnett had been pretty much, I believe it was Derek Hartnett was the quarterback the year before. And there was a returning senior that year that could have played quarterback, but he turned out to be such a good, versatile player. He could run, he could pass, he could catch the ball and do a little bit of everything. So Morgan Du Bois kind of became that jack of all trades player, and the reins got turned over to a junior named Will Rumsey. What was it like, when you knew you were going to kind of pretty much be the starting quarterback for that first year and it was one of those transition years. It was the last year the Homer played in Class A for a while. So yeah, you were playing the ESMs, the Fultons, the Jamesville, the Witts, Fowler, CBA, and teams like that. So what was that first, that experience, knowing you were going to be the signal caller for Homer that year?
Yeah, it was, yes. First, speaking of Morgan, he was definitely the guy, one of the better athletes really in that era. Between him and a Jake Plunkett, people that really set the tone as kind of the jack of all trade athletes on the team. So it wasn't as much of him stepping down from being quarterback, but more where else could he contribute, and which is pretty much everywhere. So I think he was a wide out tailback and quarterback at times. So really was all over the field. So but yeah, as far as taking on the reins at that point, it was great. I had prepared for it as again in junior high and Pee Wee junior high and JV. So it was something I had always kind of thought about what I could eventually step into. Didn't know if it was going to be our junior year, but it did work out that way. And some learnings came very quickly. Again, to your point, playing some of the bigger schools there with ESMs and CBA was probably the toughest lessons for sure. But had some good experiences for sure. But yeah, our record wasn't too strong that year for a couple of reasons.
Well, as you said, it wasn't, that last year, in the Class A, the American Division that year, it was a 1-6 record. Lost the first 6 games, of course. Fell 26-6 to ESM, 55 to 20, 50 to 22 against Fulton. Then a closer 19-14 loss to Janesville DeWitt. And then a near win in the 4th week of the season. That was a loss at Chittenango, 30-32 in double overtime.
Yeah.
What do you kind of take from those first 2 games? Like I said, the first 2 weren't close, but then it kind of, it started showing, hey, we can compete with some of these Class A teams.
Yeah, it was definitely some building moments there for sure. I mean, the Chittenango game, I do remember being really wet, very muddy game, and it was one of those just kind of sloppy games to try to muscle through. Did come out on the short end in double overtime there, but there's definitely momentum building for sure. And yeah, some of those games were pretty tough. Where some people in positions for the first time at that level, myself included. But you could kind of feel a little momentum and knowing that we were stepping up in the league as far as who we're playing. We're some new teams, some new faces that we weren't overly familiar with. So some good learnings for sure.
Then, of course, week 5, it was another close loss, 16-8 against Fowler. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, this game, you scored 10 points, which was something against CBA back in the day. And you guys, I remember Luke Swill said, yeah, we went out and we scored first on CBA, and then they proceeded to put points up on us, and it ended up being a 62-10 defeat. So that capped the 6-game losing streak to start the season. But again, that was back in the days, I believe. Luke said, I trying to remember if it was Paulus at that time or not at quarterback, but I know they had some good teams back then, and they just rolled good players in year after year. And so those were learning experiences.
I like to focus on the first 8 minutes of that game because we were winning. We were beating CBA, who may have been state champs that year, but we had 8 minutes of glory before. It was Greg Paulus. I remember vividly. He had quite a game. And, that was really the first experience where, again, coming from Class B the year prior and being competitive, all of a sudden you get some left tackle who's 6'3", 280 pounds, pulling and kind of leading the way for a tailback there who's faster than anybody else. Had some tough moments there, but it was great to play them. And again, it was kind of a nice moment to play Greg Paulus. I think he was the player of the year nationally, so he was no slouch and played that way that game.
And of course, CBA was one of those teams back in the day where anybody that played offense really did not play defense, and most of them didn't play special teams. They just had depth, and that's. I remember talking I talked to Joe Casamento one time after one of their games, and I think it might have been this game actually. So they kind of got to us early, but we were a little thin. We had a couple guys missing, so I'm kind of like, oh, geez, did he miss a couple special team guys or guy on defense or something? But I didn't really feel sorry for him. But it's just like but that was just a reality what CBA has been.
Yeah. It was again fun to play them and kind of have that experience, but that definitely showed our development up to that point was at a lower level, and all of a sudden stepping up there, it probably helped us long term too, to where we kind of turned it around in the future there. So that experience was not fun at the time, but only helped us long term.
Of course, then it came up to the regular season finale as far as the league goes, and of course that was. At Cortland, which I want to talk about, but then of course you had a couple of non-leaguers, a couple, crossovers to close out the season. Both of those, I'm pretty sure those were played, I think, at SUNY Cortland, because I think that was still where the transition of turf was going on at the time at Homer. But it was at October 18th, your first encounter with Cortland as far as the varsity team, and the first win of the year, 35-20. And again, that's still everybody talks about it. It was one of the most unique wins Homer ever had, because you guys didn't show up at Cortland, an hour or two before game time, which was the normal tradition. You guys warmed up at Homer. Game got off the bus, and Gary Pasilic is one of those that said, we didn't really tell Will. We gave Will some ideas, but we let Will go out there and call probably the first 10 or 12 plays, and we put a number of points on the board. Just you were up there, you saw what the defense was, and you made the play calls, and it turned out to be a very successful start and ended up a 35-20 win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that game built up to be essentially the season for us. Again, hadn't won a game yet. We're trying to get a little bit of momentum as the year was finishing there. So we put all our chips in for that game and had to shake it up a little bit. So yeah, to your point, did a little bit atypical warm up and stretched, did all the warm up stuff at Homer with just enough time to get there and get off the bus and get on the field. Showed up for kickoff. So just something for us to change it up a little bit. We needed a fresh kind of clean slate there, and that was one way to do it. And so we had a set we typically reserve for 2-point conversions, and it's not meant to really be a full-time offense, but based on what the defense gives you there, you're basically guaranteed to get 3 or 4 yards, which is what you'd want for a 2-point conversion. But again, we had to mix things up here, so that was one idea that the coaches came up with, to run that set basically for our entire offense for the first couple of series, and it worked out. I mean, it felt great to kind of get the trust of the coaches, Coach Cottrell, Coach Pazilik, to go out there and call it, and it worked out.
Like we said, it goes on to win there. Then it led to 2 crossover games at the home away from home, which was SUNY Cortland that year. Closed out the season with a 44-14 win over Mexico, and then beat Phoenix the next week 35-0 to close out the season. So 3-6, but like you say, teams that were more closer to being B schools at that time and stuff. So kind of get a chance to build a little bit of momentum, at the end of that season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you look back at that year, if you look at the record from the outside, it was a really rough year, mostly a failure of a year. But to have that Cortland win, so morale was high, and to finish with those other 2 games built a lot of momentum. So again, we had those learnings against the ESMs and Fowlers and CBAs, but that set us up with a couple of wins to have success our senior year.
And for you that year, you completed, through 100 passes, which was a lot at the time back there in the day for Homer. Throwing 100 passes in a season was not something that usually happened too often. Completed 46 of them for, 549 yards, threw 3 touchdown passes. And of course, you had, a senior who a good size 6'3", 190-pound target at tight end. Russ Oshel was your leading receiver that year, 15 catches for 218 yards, and he caught 2 of those 3 touchdown passes. And of course, Morgan Du Bois. Everson Morgan did a little bit of everything. He was the second leading rusher of 483 yards, 6 touchdowns. He did throw 3 touchdown passes, 8 for 20 for 175 yards, and he was tied for the second most receptions in the season with 13 for 182 yards and averaged almost 14 yards a catch, and did a little bit of everything. But you also had a teammate that became the next established tailback in the tradition of tailback Homer. Luke Sewell ran for 927 yards that year and 8 touchdowns, and also Derek Davis. Davis was the fullback more than anything. He had 39 carries for 215 yards. So those were the top 3 rushers on the year, and two of them being juniors. Kind of gave people a look of what was going to be coming the next down the road.
Yeah, we certainly felt the momentum. We realized who was coming back after that junior year campaign, and a lot of people who had made an impact, and again, getting realigned with the size of school that we were traditionally used to playing. We were confident going into our senior year. I don't know if externally if people felt the same way, but we knew build off that momentum. Everybody was feeling good, and I think we started out a little slow, but we picked it up a bit our senior year.
So what was it like with that junior class you had? Like I said, you had some good seniors, in front of you. Like I said, Morgan was a senior. Pat Odell, carried the ball some. Jeff Kaltenbach was there. Chris Johnson, Matt Weatherall, Jason Lawrence were all seniors on the team that year. They all got to carry the ball at some point. Said Morgan, the second leading receiver. But really, the receiving core, other than that, was pretty much junior laden. You had Derek Davis was third with 13 catches also for 102 yards. And Brian Hart only had 6 catches, but 6 of them, half of them were for touchdowns. He had 3 touchdown catches and 150 yards, and that just set up what he had turned into be a great senior season. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Yeah. But also Logan Mosey had a couple catches. Luke Sewilla had a couple catches at the time. And so, I mean, some good guys on that, as far as offensive weapons to work with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of talent there to spread the ball around, so everyone gets a couple touches and a couple plays there. And again, it was ups and downs that entire year, but everybody had highlights for sure. and it was great. He was speaking of Brian Hart. I had a great connection with him my junior and senior year, and he was had a very successful campaign and career at Homer as well.
And like you said, like Luke just missed 1,000 yards that year, and of course he went on and had a great senior year as well. Did you know that he just ended up he was that next guy that was going to be a good that tailback that Homer needed?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, getting back to the Pee Wee stuff, I've known Luke longer than I can remember. I mean, growing up together, competed against each other in Pee Wee, but obviously connected in junior high moving forward. And he was always going to be one of the strong players for sure. I mean, your football team is better if he's on it, and he was always going to take the reins at some point. So, seeing his success junior year, building up to our senior year, was no surprise to anybody who knows him.
And one thing I've had fun with lately, we've gone back because, talked about, the guys we don't talk about as much, but you don't get, but the linemen that year, I mean, you had some, and it's fun when I start reading the names again too, going like, yeah, I remember these guys back when they played. But the seniors that year on the line, you had Matt Smith there, Travis Young, Jason Stone, Sean Allen, Merton Smith was one of the seniors, and Jamison Lawton was another senior. Those are your senior linemen, along with, of course, Russ at tight end. But then your classmates, I mean, you had some good guys that went on to have some really nice careers, that senior year as well. Charlie McTavish was a junior. Brad Zatowski, Dan Lynch, David Pacilic, of course, playing for Dad, becoming the center of entry team. Pat McLaurin was there. Mac Benz was also a junior that year, and of course there was a sophomore on the team that turned out to be a pretty good athlete at Homer overall. Jake Sauter was a sophomore lineman that his first go around with the team, and of course also junior Brian Zarnecki, who we didn't get as much playing time. We all Brian's story, but we'll talk about that a little bit too. But
sure.
What about those guys you had for your line that year?
Yes, great. You mentioned Lawton. He was certainly a beast. He was the guy that could push a lot of people around here. But yeah, it was a good combination of a senior class that again, we stepped up in school size, so we're playing against people that we weren't used to. But we adapted the best we could and had some strong players there that were flexible and had some successes again.
Like we said, we talked about what you did that year, and you're the quarterback, but you also did play some defensive back as well. Did you have more fun playing offense, or was it more fun being a defender?
It was probably a mixture of both. I mean, the offensive stuff was certainly more memorable, but I have some vivid memories of playing strong safety with Ryan Du Bois and some other people back there. That it was great. It was definitely that chapter of playing both ways and really just kind of having a step on both sides there. But probably enjoyed the offensive side a little bit more, having a bit more control and dictating the game.
Yeah, as much as we talked about what Luke did offensively, 927 yards. He actually led the team with 5 of the 8 interceptions that year. And of course, you had one of the 8 fumble recoveries on the season. You got a fumble recovery during one of those games as well. So, I mean, that was like this kind of setting thing. Last year of playing, A ball for a while for Homer. And then your senior season, you came back 2003, got in the B division and didn't start out well. A loss at Solvay, but then guys ran off, 5 straight wins, leading up, almost up to where sectionals were at that time, at that time. But what was it like when you knew this was your senior year? You're going to be playing your senior year. What was your thought process going into that final season?
Yeah, I mean, for myself and probably the majority of the team, the clear majority of the team, this was our last season playing football. So a few people had the option to go on and play in college, but for the majority of us, we knew this was going to be it. So certainly even bittersweet going into it a little bit, but wanted to have a success and have some good memories there. So we were very fortunate to have that good run and have some great memories for the team.
And of course, like we said, started out with a 30-16 loss at Solvay that first week of the season, but kind of like the point saying, well, we're not going to repeat last year, and then it turned it right around the next week. You had the home opener against West Hill, a 34-30 win there, then 39-7 win over at Marcellus, a 24-12 win at Skinny Atlas. so get off, a 3-1 start, as the season was progressing.
Yeah, that West Hill game was probably the most impactful. So starting 0-1, a game we could have won, just didn't execute enough, and probably the hottest football game any of us has ever played in. It was pretty brutal, but just didn't get it done. So that West Hill game the following week, if we started 0-2, it would have been almost an element of here we go again. The losing streak continues. So that was a pretty intense game against a very good team. I think went on to play longer than we did in the sectionals. I'm not sure how far they got, but a very good team. But we're able to get a win there, which kind of turned things around and able us to get a little bit more momentum for that 5-game streak.
Yeah. Then then it was a 2-game home streak after the 3-1 start, a win 29-0 over Jordan Elbridge, then 51-13 over Bishop Ludden. So teams are rolling, in B West very well. Unfortunately, kind of at that time comes trips you always kind of didn't want to make, and I didn't like going to them either because it made a long night as far as being a reporter and stuff too. But dropped a 34-19 loss to close out the regular season up in Adams against South Jefferson. I'm not sure if that's the game that Jim Whidden almost got thrown off the sidelines too as a coach or not. I remember one of those trips up there. I remember he had some issues, and but still, 5-2 in the B West that year, so obviously much better than, the A division the year before.
Yeah, that South Jeff game, I just remember the idea of it where we had some good plays and some good execution, but it was one of those games where it just felt like things were not lined up. And I vaguely remember, I think it was Toby Reese rolled his ankle in pregame warmups or something, and just something felt wrong, and it kind of snowballed from there. And I don't know. Yeah, it didn't work out well. Luke got hurt that game, so we missed him a little bit. But did not end the season the way we wanted to in South Jeff. But at least we're able to do well enough throughout the season to move on.
Yeah, and that was Luke's last game because the next week you had sectionals against Oneida, and everybody goes, "What if?" Maybe you wouldn't need Luke on the offensive side because running scared Nick Caruso stepped in and ran for 200 yards and scored, I think, all the touchdowns in that game or something for a few guys. But it was a 29-28 loss in the quarterfinals, at Oneida. And again, that was Luke. I guess they would, this you depends on how you hear the story. Everybody said afterward, it wasn't notified. Nobody got notified quick enough that he actually could have played in the game. So. And like Luke said, well, they didn't really need me offensively because Nick did a great job running the ball. I said, but everybody would still pointed their fingers towards, yes, but on defense, he always made that difference on defense too. And that could have been, that point difference in there somewhere.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, he certainly was going to make an impact one way or another if he was out there. But yeah, as far as Nick, played unbelievable game. I was spoiled because on one of the plays, it probably had the best angle of him going, whatever, it was 65 yards, but we had an option to the right, threw it out to him. I got lucky and he caught a bad pitch to him. And I had the best angle in the house of seeing him run past everybody on the field. So, awesome game for him. He stepped up big time there. So that was a great memory for him.
Well, like we said, so, again, a 5-3 record, and it kind of set the stage for 2004 and then the 2005 championship team. But again, for you seniors, Luke did still just missed out on the 1,000 yards, 969 yards that year, 16 touchdowns, did everything offensively. You could ask for him. Nick ended up with 394 yards, average 7.2 yards a carry, had 4 touchdowns. Toby Reese in the backfield, 173 yards on the year. Derek, again, at fullback, Derek Davis, 156 yards, ran for a couple touchdowns. And we also saw the emergence of the next tailback in Homer history. Dustin Morris got 15 carries, 89 yards. He got a little taste of varsity experience. He had a touchdown there his sophomore year. You even threw in 86 yards rushing and a couple touchdowns on the ground that year. What do you remember from that? You ran for the 2 touchdowns, and of course, you also threw for almost 900 yards on the year, and had 8 more touchdown passes. But what do you kind of remember from the 2 touchdowns you scored on the ground?
Yeah, not much, to be honest. I'm sure it was potentially a broken play. I'm just running for my life, but yeah, we had a good mix and so many options to all the names you just mentioned. as far as who to check down to, who to put into the right position to run the right play. So we definitely had a good pool of talent to kind of spread the wealth and get the ball into a lot of different hands.
And of course, the next to the Du Bois is as well. He was only a junior. Ryan Du Bois making his varsity debut, and Morgan is his older brother as a teammate your first year, and then you get the younger brother coming along, the next in the Du Bois line that came along as well. But again, as we said, Brian Hart showed hints. 6 catches, 3 touchdowns that junior year. He was your target, 18 catches, 360 yards, 4 touchdowns that year. And his longest play of the year was a 43-yard catch and averaged 20 yards of reception. So, I mean, that he was your go-to guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, fantastic hands, was always in the right spot. I remember we started out very hot, and he was really getting a lot of catches, a lot of momentum there. Towards the end of the year, I think every other team kind of caught on, so they were bringing a safety over top of him. So we could go elsewhere again to a lot of talented people on the team. But yeah, he was the go-to guy. Great hands, and had a great career.
And of course, at the same time, that was you'd lost one good tight end, and Russ Oshel graduated. But the emergence of the next of the tight ends that really kind of became tight ends in Homer history, and of course, he's the first of 3 brothers to play there. You got a junior, Ben Connery was your second leading receiver, 14 catches, 174 yards. He had a touchdown catch. Ryan Du Bois had a touchdown catch, 10 catches on the year for 181 yards. Derek Davis, another 13 receptions that year, 129 yards and a touchdown. Toby Reese did have a touchdown catch as well, set 75 yards on the year. And so, you, like I said, the weapons were there. And like we said, it was a much more, it almost seemed like a more balanced offense. So you guys, the team ran for 1,932 yards and 25 touchdowns, but also, like we said, you threw for 889 of the 931 yards and threw all 8 touchdown passes. So, I mean, it was a much more balanced offense that year too, which, made the team successful.
Yeah, for sure. Again, a lot of weapons out of the backfield, which freed up a lot of space for me to get the passing going. So yeah, it was probably one of the more well-rounded teams, to your point, at that point. So yeah, again, a lot of weapons and a lot of success from a lot of different people.
And at the same time, you're just as good as you're having your best offensive year. You had a much better defensive year. You and Toby each had 3 interceptions on the year, and that accounted for 6 of the 9 interceptions the team had on the year. Brian Bruce had 1, and of course, that was kind of interesting because that kind of set up Brian Bruce, who was a junior, to have an outstanding senior year as and especially in the secondary, as far as going after the interception record in the season for his year. He had that next year, but. So again, did it make it easier playing the secondary? Like you said, playing safety, you get to read the quarterbacks a little bit more. Being the quarterback, did it kind of give you an advantage to kind of maybe think what they might be looking at?
Yeah, you can probably anticipate things maybe a little bit better, or on the flip side, probably overthink things just as much, trying to get ahead of things. But just getting the feel for the game and the pace of things, it's probably an advantage to kind of to call the plays on one side and then react to it on the other.
And of course, we said that, the guys that were back, as far, these linemen you had that were back again, Charlie McTavish was back. Logan Mozzie came out his senior year. He played, he was a senior. Dan Lynch was another senior. David Pasilic, of course, Brian Zarnecki, Pat McLaurin, Mac Benz, the seniors. But again, he came back he was his second year, playing really well. Jake Sauter was back. He was a junior. Shane Wilson was a junior. Sean Kraft, Tyler Eaton, Brandon Jones, John Golly. And of course, then there's another sophomore coming up, and he went on to have a 3-year varsity career. Nate Lyon was another sophomore. So what about, that group you got to work with a little bit for your senior season?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so all the talented players you mentioned, when our class was juniors and those seniors that left, we were able to move up and fill some of those shoes. But also, that class behind us came up and did a great job. A lot of strong players there. To your point, there was success. The 1 and 2 years after the 04 class that graduated, there was a lot of success for Homer football, and they continued the tradition with a lot of great years there.
And again, like I said, I asked Luke about it, and I've talked to, the guys I've talked to, Morgan. I did do Morgan. Morgan's the one that's been feeding me phone numbers now of his teammates and stuff to get a hold of the
Sure.
new podcast. Morgan's not letting anybody get away now since he's been on. But it was just your thoughts, he didn't play a lot. See, I feel bad because I know he had a few stats the 2 years that, he was with Varsity, and it might even been a sophomore a little bit. Brian Zarnecki, I know he went, it was a lot. What was it like with you guys, knowing, playing with him, knowing when he went through, he did get healthy enough that he was able to graduate with you guys and everything. And, but what was it like, watching Brian go through what he did and still wanting to be a part of the team like he was?
Sure. So yeah, he was definitely the best of us on the football team. So as far as who was going to go on and have the career collegiately, he was going to go somewhere. Academically was, top of the class for sure. And then physically, the most physically imposing person in our class for sure. So who knows where and when and what success he would have had. His dad obviously being intimately involved with football. So he was born into the path of being a very successful football player. He was one of the few people our sophomore year who was brought up for good reason. He was a beast on offensive, defensive line. And I think it was a sophomore campaign where he was diagnosed with cancer, so it derailed his athletic career at that point. But yeah, as far as him battling what he went through, coming back and being the biggest fan for all of us was a huge lift. So even that junior year you mentioned where we didn't have the success and wins, it kind of helped keep things in perspective, knowing one of our closest friends and what he's going through. So it was a crucial part to any success we had of our campaign. He was definitely a part of it.
And I know I haven't asked any of the guys. This is you'll get to be the guinea pig on this one too. It says now they do have that Brian Zarnecki Award every year. There's after preseason somebody gets the option to wear the 68 jersey if they want. Some opt not to wear it, but they know they do it, or some bring it out for like maybe just a Cortland game or for the big game they bring it out or something. But when you look back at everything that Brian meant to the program, what are your thoughts on the fact that he has gotten an award and it goes to a lineman and stuff, but that the team continues to honor Brian all these years afterwards?
Yeah, he knowing his personality, he would probably be pretty angry and frustrated that the attention was on him for something like this. But well deserved. So yeah, the expectations of whoever's wearing that jersey is certainly high. But I know deep down he'd appreciate it, but he would not want the attention on him for stuff like this. But he would deserve any bit of respect and admiration that he gets.
So as you came up, we'll put a bow tie on your part of your career. Like we say, 2 very nice years, quarterback, the junior year kind of set up what was a very good senior year. And your numbers are still good enough. You're number 6 all time in passing yards with 1,437 yards. And it's really once John Sierra came along and Joey Rivers came along, and Joey being number 1 now. But for the longest time there, you were sitting behind guys like Mike McGrath, Tim Warren, and John Amberg. When you look back at guys like that before, guys that, set the stage beforehand, and like I said, then the guys that have gone by since then, Sierra and, of course, Joey Rivers, what did that kind of mean to you, knowing it's not, passing is not the strong suit of Homer, but, to be, among the elite passers that Homer has had over the years?
Yeah, it's great to make an impact. And, a lot of great players you're mentioning there. And it almost seems surreal to, again, talking about those younger years, going to games on Friday nights and it being might as well be at a professional game. It seems so out of our grasp to be at that level, and then to get there and contribute and make an impact. It's great. I know the only as the years go by, I'll probably dip further and further down that list, but that's the way it should be.
So what? Like we said, with the Pee-wees, coming up and all that kind of stuff, and then now, of course, they have the Pee-wee night. The little guys get to come and form the tunnel, be part of, one of the games every year. What was it like once you got to that varsity level? And then I know the program does a youth day, does a day with the Pee-wees and stuff like that. And What was it like, going full circle those last couple of years, and you got the little guys there with you guys, and they're the ones looking up to you. What was that feeling kind of like?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a full circle moment. There's some other sports I was able to be a ball boy for and kind of get some exposure at a very young age. So I do know that impact as far as some of these varsity players that towers above these smaller players. You make an impact. I mean, I remember some of the younger guys that were helping out on our team. Coach Cottrell's sons, Drew and Nate, were able to come around, and I remember being in their shoes. I felt like just a few years before that. So I know the impact you can make on somebody like that. So you kind of have a responsibility to kind of reach out and be nice to the younger group, because people did that for me. So I was very fortunate. So it felt nice to kind of have that full circle moment.
What was it like, those Fridays you get to wear the jersey in school and everything, and it was game night. And what was it like coming, making that walk from the locker room down, the lights would be on, walking down and getting on the bus field and playing on a Friday night. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, playing different sports growing up and the varsity level, football, basketball, and lacrosse, and was able to play lacrosse collegiately as well. Yeah, varsity football is the most memorable. Again, it's probably the most intense. And again, you're playing with people you played with since you were in third grade. So some of the most intimate memories I have is varsity lacrosse varsity football playing Friday nights and having those memories. And it's great. I still remember to this day some of those moments. So that made the biggest impact for me.
And of course, as far as, the community support, it's one thing that they keep saying every year. Gary says there's one guy that's always there at the dome when they come into the dome to go to the locker room. There's one of the ushers or whatever you want to call one of the staff there at the dome. And always says, it's night when you guys are back here. It's always nice because Homer brings the biggest crowds. Mm-hmm. What was it like, growing up, playing for the community? As much as they came out on Friday nights to Butts Field, the parents traveled very well. You sometimes had almost more people at road games than the home team did. What's this like? Just to support overall the community and everything of Homer as you were growing up.
Yeah, you definitely have that small town community feeling where everybody does get behind it. So it's again, it made for a lot of the memories where, to your point, some of these away games, for good or bad, Homer was the loudest at every game. So even that Cortland game we spoke to before, our junior year, I think when on our way back to Homer, there was a line on 81 North that were everybody's honking their horns, going crazy because it was such a big moment for our team, the community, the school. And that was one of the memories too, was not just the win, but really the reception afterwards was something that everybody that was a part of it will not forget.
What did you take away, as we said, for the coaching coach, Coach Vasilic now going into his 30th year or so. Tom Cottrell, of course, played at Homer in the, early 80s, and, he's, been there forever. And a guy who could have left a long time ago because his sons graduated back in the early, by the early 2000s, the kids were gone and stuff. And of course, his daughter Rachel was a manager for a while back when you were playing even. And a guy like Jim Whidden. But what do you take away from memories from those guys? What kind of advice did they give you as your career was unfolding?
Yeah, probably didn't appreciate it at the time, but that spoiled with the coaches we had. I mean, Coach Vasilic, I don't think would need any explanation. There's probably nobody who has the passion who's bringing that forget game over game, practice over practice, for year over year now for a career. Even going to one of the football camps we went to, I think going into our senior year, even the other players that were there were like, who is that guy who just tackled that dummy across the field and was screaming louder than any players here? He brings an energy that can't be replicated very many other places. And as far as Coach Whidden, the best pregame speeches you're going to hear. Something about the tone he uses and how he would articulate kind of what people need to appreciate and get ready for games. I still can think of just chills from him speaking in those pregame speeches. And I was very fortunate, again, with my position, spent a lot of time with Coach Cottrell. So he'd be calling the plays. So we would have a lot of back and forth, a lot of good memories, strategizing, trying to put things together. And again, he put a lot of trust in me to call plays at times and do stuff like that. So really spoiled with the people that we were able to play for. And at the time, you don't really know the difference. It's just, these are our coaches for football, but being removed for a few years now and coaching at some other levels and other sports, you got to appreciate when you have a good coach, because you don't always have a good coach, and they were world class.
Of the two, who was harder to play for, Kotz on the offensive side or Coach P, because he was the defensive guy? Was one of them harder than the other to play with?
I think I was a little bit closer on the offensive side with Coach Cottrell, so he would let me know, certainly let me know when plays were run well, but let me know too that things could have been better, where I was able to contribute on the defensive side, but in probably in a lesser role as far as calling the shots and being the captain on that side. So probably being closer to Coach Cottrell, he was probably harder on me times, but all deserved. No complaints there.
And of course, you had the unique pleasure to play with his son David, who's now, I don't know how many years now he's been back. So he was a volunteer assistant for the longest time. Now he kind of tries to work into a partial paid assistant job. Coach tries to get him a little money here and there to help coach. But playing with David Pasila back in the day, are you surprised to see that he's able to come back now and be an offensive line coach and relate to the players now and impart wisdom?
Not at all. I mean, similar to what we said about Zarnecki, there's a pedigree you're kind of born into. So he knew football better as a second grader than most people do probably today. So he knows what he was doing, and it speaks to it as well. So he was my center. So not too many 165-pound centers that can make the impact he's made, just because he knows football so well. So he's going to put himself in a position to make the block, chip somebody, get to the linebacker when needed. So he knows it better than most will. So not surprised at all that he's kind of gone on this path to into coaching, and it'll be exciting to see where he takes it over the years here. But that's no surprises there at all.
I know I've kind of joked, but they kind of gone their separate ways now. Chris Whidden's built up a pretty good high school coaching career up in Massachusetts, and of course Drew is off coaching, helping be lacrosse coaches all over the place now too. And David's the only one that's still kind of around. I had kind of envisioned one day that finally Jim, Tom, and Gary would step down, and the three sons that it'd be the next generation of the same guys would be moving into coaching at Homer.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy to see. I mean, wouldn't be shocked if obviously those three do continue in coaching in some capacity, just because of the pedigree. Again, they got shoes to fill, but I know they could have success if they wanted to. What
advice would you pass along to kids now that are coming up? I know football struggles a little bit. Some people, numbers at times are been a little bit tougher. People worry about kids getting hurt and different things like that. But what advice would you pass along to somebody, a young kid that is playing football now or is thinking about wanting to play football and maybe eventually become a varsity player like you did? What advice could you pass along?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to get involved and definitely appreciate the time you're doing it. Again, of all the athletics and sports and levels I've played at, specifically varsity football is the most memorable. So even the 2 days in preseason and the longer practices and the sprints and everything, looking back, it was not just what you're doing, but you're doing with people you've done it with since third grade. So just embrace the kind of the grind part of it, because you do look back and miss some of those things for sure. So just get involved and take it seriously, because it can lead to some great memories.
Any final memories you take from your days of playing football at Homer, with the community and everything? Any other lasting memories?
Yeah, just again, even internally when we weren't, or externally when you see the record, our junior year wasn't great, but internally there was a lot of good things happening, and it'd be disappointing to lose, but again, having momentum, building to a successful senior year campaign. Didn't end the way we wanted it to with that loss on Oneida we spoke to, but just overall a very positive chapter for a lot of us in the class of 04. Where we had a lot of good games, good plays, good memories. So just a very positive chapter in my life.
All right. Well, Will, we want to thank you for taking time to come back and live the glory days at Buttsfield on the football side of things.
Yeah, appreciate you inviting me on, and thanks for the memories.
And that will do it for this edition of Trojan Football Talk. Again, today's show brought to you by American Credit Union, for every day, for everything, located next to Little Caesars at 3944 Route 281 in Cortland. By the Cortland Voice, the exclusive media partner of Trojan Football Talk. For all your local news and sports in Cortland County at no cost to you, check out CortlandVoice.com. By the Royal Auto Group on Route 281 in Cortland, the home of no hassle, no razzle dazzle. Check them out at RoyalAutoGroup.com. By Yemen Real Estate at the entrance to Yemen Park off I-81, exit 11 in Cortland. By Nikki C's Hometown Pizzeria and Meatball Shop on Route 281 next to Hobo's in Homer. Find them online for fast, secure ordering or call 607-749-5300. They have a unique menu with dietary-specific options. Nikki C's, your grab-and-go specialist. By Graftex, located on Elm Street in Cortland. Founded in 1984, they provide custom screen printing and embroidery for teams and local businesses. Graftex continues its dedication to servicing customers' needs for innovative graphic designs, custom and printed apparel, and quality service. They are easy to contact at 1-800-417-7791. By M&D Deli, located on Central Avenue in Cortland. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. M&D has breakfast sandwiches, bakery items, and daily lunch specials. They are also available for catering. Check out their Facebook page for more information. Stop by or call 607-753-TO-GO. That's 753-8646. And look for the new food truck coming this spring. By Crop Growers LLP, the first choice in crop insurance located in Homer. Contact KC Slade at 607-591-2460 for more information. And by the First National Bank of Dryden at 12 South Main Street in Homer. Safe, secure, and locally owned for all your banking needs. For more information, stop by, call 607-662-4179, or check them out online at drydenbank.com. Once again, thank you to my guest, Will Rumsey, for taking us down memory lane on the football side with the Trojans. I'm Tom Vartani, and thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.